Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumo and it's always great to be on this show where we discuss all things books. Today we've got two very special guests and a very unique book. You'll get to see what I mean by unique, really, really unique book. And the story of our guests today is very inspiring. We all like to hear stories about people who go through very difficult circumstances and then turn those circumstances around to just face life positively. Such stories inspire the rest of us. We need such stories because at one time or another, we also fall into that ditch. Life presents so many ditches as we keep going on and on. It's about getting into those ditches and climbing out again and continuing to run. And then if you fall into another one, get out again and then keep running. That's what life is all about. And the people who share their stories in such situations where they are right there in the ditch, especially when the ditch is very, very deep, when they share their stories and they share it with so much passion and enthusiasm, they really inspire the rest of us. Let me say no more. Get to meet with our special guests and then enjoy our conversation.
Juanita Ashade is a broadcast journalist, a music minister, and an author. She's the director of programs, operations, and lead presenter at Voice of Nigeria. Juanita is married to Festus Ashade, a pastor at Foursquare Gospel Church in Nigeria. Festus works in the Federal Civil Service. He's a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. The couple are the authors of a twin book titled Grace Immeasurable and Mercy Unlimited. Grace Immeasurable is authored by Juanita, while Festus is the author of Mercy Unlimited. For both, join Channel's Book Club to discuss the twin book.
Chinyere and Festus, welcome to Channel's Book Club. Or would you rather I call you Ayodele?
Well, whichever.
Either one flies.
I'm okay with it.
Welcome to Channel's Book Club.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Wow, what a story. First of all, before we get into the story, this is a very interesting way of putting two books into one. These are two-in-one books, right?
Yeah, twin.
Or this is a two-in-one book. Two books in one.
Well, call it that or call it a twin book.
Twin book. You prefer to call it twin book?
Yeah.
Okay, so twin book. In front here is Grace Immeasurable by Juanita Chinyere Ashade. And then you flip the book, turn it, and you've got Mercy Unlimited by Festus Ayodele. Wow. So, you're reading the book and then you get to a part, you've got to spin it over and start reading the second book. Where did you get the inspiration for this?
Well, he came up with the idea of the book and he had the mercy angle. And I said, no, I'm looking at it from the point of view of grace. So we couldn't agree initially. And then suddenly he remembered a book he had in his library, which is What Men Expect from Women and What Women Expect from Men by John and Diane Hagee. They both did their angles back to front, same thing.
Just like this?
Yes, exactly like that. So he brought it out and said, okay, let's do it this way. And I said, aha, finally. So
that was the solution.
That's banned by me, yes. So that's how we got there.
Okay, so your own side of the story focuses more on grace.
Yeah.
And then Festus' side of the story focuses more on mercy. Interesting. But this is basically narratives about the experience you had, the accidents that led to the loss of your limbs. So I would like you to share with viewers out there, the inspiration. Of course, that inspired the book, but I'd like you to say something about it, how you eventually got to a point where both of you decided to write the book. I like to call it the story behind the book. In this case, the stories, maybe, behind the books. So, yeah, I would like you to share a bit of that.
Okay, my husband is a pastor. He was called into the ministry, and of course I had to be supportive. And then we had this pastors' wives conference, biennial conference, which I had to attend. I went for it, and on our way back, we chartered a vehicle from Abuja to Lagos, and from Lagos back, we stopped at the camp. And on our way back, we had this naughty driver, to say the least, who kept on picking his calls. We tried to control him severally, but he just wasn't listening. I was directly behind him in the Sienna bus. And then suddenly we got to Lokoja. Somewhere along the line, I think at one point he agreed to stop to pick the call. But thereafter he just went back. It was business as usual. So after we left Lokoja, I called my husband to say we're on the homeward lap, the last lap. And then the next thing, he gets this funny call from somebody saying that they are beating your wife. And I mean, that was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, because as soon as I heard it, I quickly chipped in, Emma, worry, all will be fine. Everything is in control, that kind of thing. But it just didn't work. The next thing I remembered was that he was veering off. He was losing control. And thereafter, I felt these arms around me and I blanked out. So fast forward, we went through so many things, and then he started talking about a book. And I said, excuse me, what? And that was it. Anyway, eventually, with time, because one thing about my husband, if he catches a vision, pray he doesn't catch a vision, because once he does, you have to run with it.
Okay, so the idea first came to you when your wife was in the hospital.
That's correct.
Yeah, to write the book. So how did that?
Well, I was with my cousin and some other people around us while she was in the theater for the first surgery. And
the first of 3 surgeries.
3. And there and then, while waiting, I got that inspiration that there's a book coming out of this experience. Given even the title that you are having on it, Mercy Unlimited.
I'm guessing I'm guessing because you knew you were going to write this book, that led to you documenting quite a number of things happening then. Because reading your parts of the book, it seemed very detailed. Dates, time, who said what, and all that, all captured. That was because you knew very early you were going to write this book, right? Or is it just you? You're just a detailed person, naturally.
Yes, maybe by my profession, partly. And because God had prepared me for it.
That.
So it just worked in that manner. So that is it.
Yeah, okay. I mean, but your story, it's a very touching story. It's a very moving story. I found it moving, reading that story, because life was normal, before 2018 for you. And then you had that accident and all the trauma, all the pains, losing your limbs, coping and dealing with all that. Not just the physical aspect of it, but also the psychological and spiritual aspects, of it. And still being able to keep your faith and just keep on living. I would like you to share a bit of that so that viewers watching can get a glimpse into what we have in here, what they will find in here.
Yeah, well, why he was able to convince me to get round to writing this book was because just before, or somewhere along the line, I read someone else's book. I call her my mentor. She's Dr. Irene Olumese. She's also a double amputee. And it was from her book that I got to know a lot. And I saw the need to let people know that there is hope. No matter, I often ask myself, am I for real? But the fact that I'm going through it lets me tell people, it makes it possible for me to tell people, look, no matter what you're going through, the grace of God is ever sufficient for you. It's not something you can explain. I remember with people coming around to the house to see me, and as soon as they get to see me, they burst into tears and all that. And I say, hey, what's happening? What's wrong with you? Am I not here? So what else? Hey, you better, and I just start doing funny things. And before they know it, I said, better respect yourself, because me, I'm good, I'm cool, I'm fine. But thereafter, I ask myself, gee, are you okay? I'll stand in front, I'll go in front of the mirror, and I say, yes, it's just the grace of God. And people need to know that this grace is real. It's not just a story. It's not just on the pages of the Bible or wherever. It's real, because I know that it's real. And that's all that this story is about, this account. That's why I agreed to eventually put it out. Yes, people need to know that the grace of God is real. I can say that.
Well, I mean, I've met people who have had very tragic, traumatic experiences, and they become bitter against, the God they've always believed in. Because the question then in their hearts is, why me? If you love me so much, why did you allow me to lose my limbs? Or why did you allow somebody close to me to die? That kind of thing. That's a typical philosophical, spiritual question people ask. Yeah. But in your own case, it seems to have driven you closer to God. And you keep talking about the grace of God, the grace of God, the grace of God, which to somebody might sound like a contradiction. So, do you want to say something about that?
Well, as soon as I garnered enough strength, the first thing I did was to grab my tab and go through the book of Job. I read through, that was the first thing I did. I was still in ICU on the bed with my bandages all over my limbs and all of that. That was even before the second, I think just after the first thing. And I went through the book of Job. And I told myself, if Job could go through it. So he went through it all, and the world didn't come to an end. And he said, I know that my Redeemer lives. So that's it. So there were certain things that I did in the course of having to go for the conference and all of that. I mean, the fact that I went there to support my husband as his wife, as a pastor's wife, was enough for me to say, God, why? But I've always asked myself, I had to ask myself a question along the line that imagine that you wake up and this was a dream, and then now say, okay, now let's now do the proper thing. Would you do it all over again? And I remember that day I went in front of the mirror and said, yes, I will. Because I'd rather do what I know is right and suffer for it than do what is wrong and bring consequences upon myself, for which eventually you say, well, maybe if you had done the right thing, it wouldn't have been that way. So I'm content. I know that I did what God would expect me to do. So if he's allowed this, to him be all the glory. Questions that I can't answer, maybe when I see him, I say, but God, but Daddy, did it have to be this bad? But for now, let his name be glorified.
Amen. Okay, Festus, your own book, while it is Mercy Unlimited, I have to confess that reading it, I thought more about Nigeria than any other thing, because your own, the early parts of your book particularly, you narrated the experiences you had with your wife at the National Hospital in Abuja. It sort of like exposed the shambles that the health sector in Nigeria is in, because I was just reading and my heart was like almost breaking, like basic things you would expect in a hospital, as you narrated here, we're not present, we're not there. And then you had to be running helter-skelter. Your wife almost lost her life. She eventually lost her limbs and all that. So did you wanted to did you deliberately wanted to shed light on this part of Nigeria, or you were just telling your own story and it was just something I caught as a reader?
Well, I wanted to give a proper account of what happened for posterity, and of course it's because God is in it, giving me direction at that point when she was in the theater. It continued to develop. And with the experience in National Hospital in particular, I needed to tell the whole world, and Nigeria in particular, that we can do things better, improve our health sector.
Inspiring, isn't it? You know, we don't value what we have until we lose it or lose them, as the case may be. You walk around, jump around. Imagine just losing your limbs. Chinyere has shown us that life can go on no matter what you experience, no matter what you face, and that you should value what you have while you have it. Really, it's very important, very important. Up next, there's a gentleman that is out there trying to break the Guinness Book of World Record for marathon reading. Can you imagine reading for days, on and on and on and on and on? Well, John Obot is the man I'm talking about, up there in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Obot is an indigene of that state and is attempting to break the world record. If his attempt is successful, Obot will surpass the current title holder for the longest reading marathon, reached by Isakov from Turkey. We wish Obot all the best. Keep reading and crack that Guinness Book of World Record for us here in Nigeria. You know, in Nigeria, we love breaking world records. You remember the most recent one? Well, everybody remembers. You know what I mean. Cooking, that's a keyword. Well, this is Channel's Book Club, and we like to talk all things literary. Well, a few days back, there was the International Literacy Day. That was a big one. And all over the country, there were events here and there, interesting events, book reading events, book reading sessions. Some people put their book launches on the day, you know, just to mark the day, and so many interesting events across the country. Well, we were at one and we enjoyed ourselves, and we would like you to just get a glimpse of what happened there. Enjoy this.
In 2020, UNESCO statistics revealed that at least 763 million young people and adults lacked basic literacy skills. That depressing number has not improved significantly since then. As a reminder of the importance of literacy, the world celebrates International Literacy Day on September 8th annually. This year in Nigeria, educators, literary organizations, advocates, and writers in some parts of the country marked the special day with various activities as they join the rest of the world to promote the values of literacy. One example is Foluke Falaye, author of over 20 books. Falaye hosted pupils, teachers, and others to a reading session in Lagos. In her welcome address, she spoke on the theme of this year's celebration.
The theme of the Literacy Day for 2023 is Promoting Literacy for a World in Transition, Building the Foundation for Sustainable, Peaceful Societies. Building the culture of reading and writing is a collective responsibility that you and I should do.
The president of the Network of Book Clubs and Reading Culture Promoters of Nigeria, Richard Mama, in his keynote address explained literacy as a key factor to sustaining Nigeria.
For this nation to be sustainable, for it to be peaceful, for it to be free of crises and the troubles that we see now and again, it is important, right, that we make the right investments. Literacy, education are key.
The convener read from one of her books titled Repose.
The morning wind blew branches of trees and grasses sideways of Maraba. The rustle leaves on the ground were dry and crispy. Whenever one walked upon it, it made a crunching sound. Atika ambled along sidewalk that led to the junction, and each time she stepped on the leaves, there came a crunching noise. She held the bowl containing maize tightly. She was going to grind it at Maraba Market.
Participants at the event spoke on the importance of literacy in the society.
Today's event has been awesome. We were taken through so many things. We came to understand the importance of literacy. In fact, we came to understand that without literacy, our country cannot develop.
Without literacy, we don't have the economy. It is literacy that enables us to read and write. And then with the help of Auntie Foluke, we've been able to read so many books from her. And reading with her today, I understand more about literacy, learn more about literacy, and enjoy the term Literacy Day.
This day is very, very significant to a librarian because without reading and writing, the society cannot move forward. And library, as a custodian of knowledge, has a great role to play, which we have been playing to actually improve reading culture in Nigeria.
I learned that literacy had value to our lives.
Literacy can also help us to, it can improve our standard of living and job opportunity, because most of people of these days now, they're looking for people that are educated, not people that are not.
The convener, Foluke Falaye, explained why she committed herself to promoting literacy.
This is what I believe in. This is my passion. When it comes to literacy, it's about writing and reading is the basis. Not knowing how to read and write is not a life that is worth living.
The world has been celebrating International Literacy Day annually since 1967.
Let's get the whole of Nigeria literate. It's very important. Literacy is a powerful thing. The more literate a country is, the more developed it tends to be, and the more economically strong it tends to be. That's a fact. So let's get busy getting every Nigerian literate. It's very important. The Nigeria Prize for Literature, remember, is still on the final phase of the Nigeria Prize for Literature 2023. 3 writers have been shortlisted, and one of them will take home the big prize, $100,000. I don't even want to convert that to Naira now, considering the state of the Naira, 900 and something, or whatever it is now, to a dollar. So if you do that conversion, you get to have an idea of how big the money we are talking about is. But beyond the money, this prize has been great for Nigerian literature over the years. It's been something writers have aspired to winning, and it gets them working. It gets them working hard, writing, churning out books, and so on. And we've had some great books churned out over the years just because of this prize. It's a symbol. It's symbolic. The Nigeria Prize for Literature. It's something inspiring, something that makes a statement that says writing is important for any developing society. Literacy is important for any developing society. And writing should be rewarded. Creative writing should be rewarded. That's very important. And kudos to Nigeria Prize for Literature. Kudos to the sponsor of Nigeria Prize for Literature, that's the NLNG. Well, 3 writers, 1 prize, and they're all going for it. Very soon, the winner of that prize is going to be announced for 2023. But there are a lot of things to know about the Nigeria Prize for Literature, and here are a few you might not be aware of or you might have forgotten.
The Nigeria Prize for Literature is a registered charity sponsored by the Nigeria LNG Limited. The Literary Prize, which is the biggest in Africa, commenced in February 2014 and has recorded over 2,000 entries. The prize, worth $100,000, has influenced the growth of the publishing sector in Nigeria and has contributed to improving the quality of creative writing, editing, and proofreading. Some of the recipients of the award are Romeo Oriogun, Soji Cole, Abubakar Ibrahim, Judy Dada, Tade Padiola, Esiaba Irobi, Gabriel Okara, Professor Ahmed Yarima, amongst others. The Nigeria Prize for Literature is administered by an advisory board set up by Nigeria LNG Limited, which is currently headed by Professor Akachi Adimora Eziebo. The competition runs a 4-year cycle and focuses on the prose, fiction, poetry, drama, and children's literature genres. This year's genre is drama. The winner of the Nigeria Prize for Literature 2023 will be announced on October the 13th.
this is where we have to end the show today. As always, we'll be delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.